Okay, friends, we're going to do a tour of a place called Tel Dan. If we don't understand the history, if we don't understand the past, we're most likely going to repeat it. In this site, there's an amazing history, some things you may not be aware of. So we want to share with you this place, this location, where we are, and this story of Dan, okay? And the story of the two golden calves. This is amazing. I really hope you enjoy this tour. What we're going to do is look at the historical sites here in a place in northern Israel called Dan, where the tribe of Dan once stood. Now, the reason this is so important is that if you know the story of King David, if you know the story of King Solomon, after King Solomon, the kingdom was divided into two parts. There was something called the northern kingdom and then the southern kingdom. Southern kingdom was Benjamin, Judah, with the temple and the Levites, and then the 10 northern tribes. So we're in the north, in the place where the 10 northern tribes. And what happened is Jeroboam, who was a contemporary with Solomon, built two golden calves. That's correct. Just like the children of Israel in the wilderness with Moses built a golden calf. When Moses went to the mountain, they made a golden calf and said, "These are the gods that brought us out of Egypt." Jeroboam did the same exact thing, only one generation after David, okay? There were two of them. One of them is in the place where we're at. So behind me, you can see a spring. We have archaeological evidence of a temple. Jeroboam basically made two temples. What he did is he didn't want the 10 northern tribes going to the temple in Jerusalem. They would return to Yahweh. So what he did is he made two temples. One of them was in the place where we're at here in the north. Another one was in the south at Bethel. Okay, so that the children of Israel and the 10 northern tribes would worship false gods. Okay, and the evidence of this site remains to this day. So there's amazing things here like this spring. I believe this spring will show you the spring may be the largest in the Middle East. It's like a river. It's so large it has to be coming from another source. There's so much water. It's just a gusher. So I hope you enjoy this tour and follow along with us. Here's a map of the site here, Tel Dan Nature Reserve. And we're going to look at some of the sites of interest relate to the spring here and what they're calling here the cultic site. Of course, this is the golden calf altar in that portion. There's another place here which is the gate. Okay, this is an ancient gate. So these are some of the sites, an overall map, and we'll show you the map and show you where we are throughout the site. Here's one of the entrances of the spring, and you can see how strong and powerful it is. As we look under the bridge, it's, wow, like a river.
So here you can see the spring. It's just enormous gusher of water. This is in the north of Israel, and it feeds into the Jordan River as a major water source into the Jordan River, then feeding into the Galilee, the Sea of Galilee, heading south. But look at this, is a huge gusher, the largest spring in the Middle East.
When I first came to this site, I was only vaguely familiar with the story of the 2 golden calves set up the second time. And you can see the king, that's Jeroboam, made 2 golden calves, 2 calves of gold, and he set one up in Bethel, it's a little bit north of Jerusalem, and he put the other in Dan. Now, Bethel is in Ephraim, Mount of Ephraim, of the tribe of Ephraim, and Dan is where we are. We're in this location here in Dan. Here we are. It's hard to believe this still exists. All right, what we're looking at here is the remnants of what they're calling the Cultic Dan. And cultic means, cult. Okay? The Sacred Precinct. I'll show you this a little closer up view. And we have some things here. These are like the things the apostate priests were doing. And this is all here. This is like a temple, people. You see this big thing here? They've erected a metal frame for what they believe was the altar. I mean, this was a false temple. This was a temple built in the north for the children of Israel to come here, worship false gods, Mystery Babylon, instead of going to Jerusalem. So let us not think that we're not doing the same thing, that Mystery Babylon hasn't deceived us into, doing false religion, guys. Okay? So we have the ancient remnants of the wall. And let's take a look at some of these things that they've described here. All right, here it is. This is, if you understand how sacred architecture works, we have the aspects of it here. The Sacred Precinct in the time of Ahab. This existed for a long time, guys. This is the altar. That altar is what we can see there. We'll get a close-up of it. Then we have something called a high place. See, the stairs go up. That's Bema. Bema means throne or seat or high place. Bema in Greek and also in Hebrew is a high place. So it's a throne. Okay, and there's remnants of things within these rooms. Okay, see altar chamber, priestly chambers, things where they're burning incense to false gods. Exactly what it says in the scriptures, a sacred precinct. Now, let's look at the history. As we mentioned, following the division of the kingdom of Solomon, 930 approximately, Jeroboam the son of Nebat established a cult at Dan, an alternative to the one at the temple in Jerusalem. He placed a golden calf. I mean, guys, when I first came here, I couldn't believe this. This exists, okay? It's really important that this is the red heifer. That's why there's red heifer offerings, because of the golden calf. In the city, it was built in the house in the high places. In the Hellenistic period, in the cultic precinct was surrounded by a wall, as developed to this day. Okay, bilingual Greek Aramaic inscriptions found the site attest to some of the history here. Now, this site was just after Solomon, as it said, and it existed until the northern tribes were captured by the Assyrians. So here we can see them bowing, priest offering a calf. Okay, and here's what it says. Jeroboam ordained a feast, and he offered upon it the altar sacrifice unto calves, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar. This is why they were banished by the Assyrians in 722 BC. Okay, now what it doesn't say there is that it was the 8th month and 15th day. So it was a false Yom Kippur. A false Yom Kippur Jeroboam set up. And he got the children of Israel to worship false gods. And this site amazingly exists to this day. So there's the walls, here's the precinct. This is probably an old well. We can see plaster. It's probably used as a cistern. Right next to what was an altar. Now this place was destroyed. This altar was destroyed by Josiah. Josiah destroyed the false high places, this one and the one in Bethel. Okay? But this is this place. So, this is the place that you can see the outside of it, and was more than likely an altar. You know, something to this effect. If you can picture either this here or these foundations, there was something here, guys. And this is a close-up of it. Now, just to give you a sense of scale of what we're looking at, you can see my height, and here you can see me touching it. That's how high this is. More than likely an altar. And what they did is they reproduced the altar that was in Jerusalem in the temple and made a false temple here. Okay, that's why the 10 northern tribes were banished from the land first. Now this is the Bema here. You can see the steps going up, and then it goes up to where was a Bema, or a high place. All right, here's an overview of the altar in that precinct there. And then there's chambers on that side. The high place, the steps going up. And then this is the high place, the Bema, the seat. Okay? And God always spoke to the children of Israel about their false gods, burning incense to false gods in the high place. Okay? And this is a perfect example of that. Burning incense to false gods. And so up here there may have been more to this than what we're looking at now. Of course, we have remnants of various eras and time periods. But it was up here that was probably a temple. Okay, a large building. It does not match the proportions of the temple in Jerusalem. Everything here is false. So if we look at it, we can see from this corner, we haven't measured it or anything, but you can see this does not share the proportions of the temple in Jerusalem. But the children of Israel came here, and they set up a golden calf on something. Okay, they set up a golden calf just like in the Exodus, and said, "These are the gods that brought us out of Egypt." Okay. So this is the Bema. We're up here on the high place. And then off to this side of the complex, there are other rooms which you can see. And we'll get a close look at what archaeological evidence we have been able to find within these areas. And as we come here, we have another area where it's believed incense was offered. He shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from off the altar. That's Leviticus Chapter 16, where it's talking about Yom Kippur. But again, this is a false temple. False chambers. They're not doing this unto Yahweh. But it is believed here that this room was the altar chamber. Originally contained the altar, reconstruction, and shovels and replicas are on display. So they did have some things that were used maybe to do incense and things like that in this room they found in the archaeological digs. But it's very sad because everything that you're looking at, all these ancient walls, all of this as a false temple, is why the children of Israel went into captivity. So when they built a false temple to a false god, They're banished from the land. So it's an important lesson for us to realize that, you know, however good their thoughts were, their intentions, it led to destruction. And much of the site in Bethel, Josiah destroyed completely to the ground. But this was a farther journey, and this may have maintained some more characteristics here. Where it's possible we have some foundations and some things still in place. Again, this appears to be our well, and that's the area for the altar.
Okay, here you can see me standing at the gate and entrance here. I apologize, there were some audio problems, so you can't hear me when I'm speaking, but this is the entry point of the gate to the city and the walls that we have shown you. And then what we can do is we can, as we approach, you can see that over to our right there's some plaques, and we'll take a look at those.
So while we're here at the gate, let's take a look at some of the plaques here. And remember that all the work done to build all this wall and fortifications was all destroyed. And it was destroyed for the very reason it was built, and that was the golden calves. Okay? But let's take a look at the gates and kind of an artist's rendition of what it may have looked like. Tall walls, which we can see portions of. Okay, tall walls going up, and then an entrance gate here where we were standing. Okay, so these are the gates of the city, of the entrance to Dan. And let's remember that it wasn't long after the establishment of this community that, look what it says, he defiled the high places where the priests have burned incense and broke down the high places. Now he, in this case, is King Josiah. That's 2 Kings chapter 23. And so he destroyed this place. He also destroyed the golden calf in Bethel. And that's why a lot of this in the upper sections is destroyed. Okay? But it's a sobering reminder of the second golden calf. Okay? He destroyed the high places, the two golden calves. Now, one of the amazing discoveries here in the archaeological dig in 1966 is when it was first started here, is a tablet, a fossilized tablet was found here, and it was carved into it an inscription of King Hazael, king of Damascus, and he was boasting over his victory over the king of Israel. And it's the first time the words House of David are used or discovered in archaeology outside of the Holy Scriptures. So it's a very significant discovery, and we'll show you some photographs of that. It's like a stela with that name, House of David.
Okay, here is the Stella of Tel Dan, which is an amazing archaeological discovery. And there you see in the bottom right, highlighted slightly, the inscription in Paleo Hebrew of House of David. So this commemorates the victory of King Hazael of Damascus over the house of Israel. Clearly in Paleo Hebrew at the
Here we have some beautiful views on a lookout post. And if we look closely, we can see the cattle. Of course, it's in the north here where a number of candidates for the red heifer have been made known. But we're not too far from the border of Syria. In fact, this map here has a kind of layout of the land, but what I thought was interesting, it says here, I don't know how clear it is, but a pencil was responsible for the water war. So basically the British and French were dividing up the area, and there was a verse, I'll have to look it up and see what it says, a Bible verse saying from Dan to Beersheba. So the French and British were drawing the line to the borders for Syria and the land of Israel, and the line north of Tel Dan was drawn in 1923. The border was drawn on a map with a leaded pencil. Both sides claim the sovereignty over the area claimed by a pencil line, which represent 30 meters of land, including En Dan, which flows nearby, which we will show you. And En Dan is one of the most profuse springs in the Middle East. It's like the biggest spring. And here's some more things. You can pause the video and read this for time's sake. We have things here where there are certain areas on the map. And maybe at another point I can show you Mount Hermon. At this present time, Mount Hermon has snow on it, which is amazing. All right, here at the gate at Tel Dan, you can see this is the gate. This is a floor they've added. But you can see how this gate here, how it has a nice viewpoint and outlook over the surrounding area. And we're right at the corner of it where I'm standing, okay? And this area here, again, would have been the gate and the entrance into the city, okay? Of course, closed off at nighttime, and they would have held watches. So it gives us an idea. This is, just some overgrowth and everything, but it would have had a nice view of the area and everything around the area to see like a watchtower, right? But then it also had a place where the entrance was into the city in the gate here. So here's part of the fortification and the wall, which may not look like much from where we are now, but if we look up, you can see it's not even a complete wall, but a pretty substantial one. Now we're getting into the gate here, and there are chambers and rooms, which you can see to the right and left of it. And then as we come in, okay, you can see this is the area, the trees are overgrown and they have excavations ongoing here. Okay, but this is the gate to the city. And this is where you would have entered. And this is a place where merchants will come and everything like that. But then behind it is some steep walls. So let's look at the wall. All right, guys, here's at the gate. We can see that we have some verses. The king arose and sat at the gate, and this was the gate of the entry of what the ancients would have done. And so the king, in this case, would have sat at this gate, and people would have brought, things to him. But, this is a common aspect of the ancients. Here we have a verse in Ruth talking about Boaz sitting in the gate, okay? So this is a significant gate of what we can see of how the ancients maintained a gate to the city, and it was a judgment place. And this exists, and it shows us things even in the old city of Jerusalem. And we have outside walls here and a gate, to the city. So it's really, really amazing. If we compare this to the Praetorium, we can see similar aspects to the gate outside. Okay, so this would be outside the city. All right, but these are the walls. So these are the walls. These are the gates and everything for the entrance. And if we look, it's a little hard. We don't have any people here. We don't have any vantage points. But it's only partial portions of the wall. This is excavations that were done.
Okay, here you can see me standing at the gate and entrance here. I apologize, there were some audio problems, so you can't hear me when I'm speaking. But this is the entry point of the gate to the city and the walls that we have shown you. And then what we can do is we can, as we approach, we can see that over to our right there's some plaques, and we'll take a look at those.
So while we're here at the gate, let's take a look at some of the plaques here. And remember that all the work done to build all this wall and fortifications was all destroyed. And it was destroyed for the very reason it was built, and that was the golden calves. Okay? But let's take a look at the gates and kind of an artist's rendition of what it may have looked like. Tall walls, which we can see portions of. Okay, tall walls going up, and then an entrance gate here where we were standing. Okay, so these are the gates of the city, of the entrance to Dan. And let's remember that it wasn't long after the establishment of this community that, look what it says, he defiled the high places where the priests have burned incense and broke down the high places. Now he, in this case, is King Josiah. That's 2 Kings chapter 23. And so he destroyed this place. He also destroyed the golden calf in Bethel. And that's why a lot of this in the upper sections is destroyed. Okay? But it's a sobering reminder of the second golden calf. Okay? He destroyed the high places, the two golden calves. Okay, now we're at a place called the Canaanite Gate, which you can see behind me. This is before the children of Israel came to the area in the conquest of Joshua. The Canaanites were in the area. And this is an ancient gate dating back to that time. It's very interesting. We'll show you a kind of artist rendition of what the gate looked like. And you would have entered stairs going up here. Well, guys, this is the conclusion to the message on Tel Dan. It's a sobering message. It's a sobering reality of false religion. So let's just recap a little bit. Children of Israel, through Joshua, conquered the land. The tribe of Dan comes to this area. Then, much later, the first king combining Judah and Israel is David. His son Solomon builds the temple. After Solomon, the kingdom is divided again. 10 northern tribes north, and 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, in the south with the temple. The first king of the 10 tribes is Jeroboam. Jeroboam, in ruling the northern kingdom, put 2 temples, one here, one in Bethel, to the south. He set up a golden calf. The golden calf that he set up is the same thing the children of Israel did with Moses. that golden calf and that altar, which we have shown you, lasted for about 200 years approximately. Then the whole place is destroyed by the Assyrians. The 10 northern tribes then are dispersed throughout the whole earth, never to return in their full, genealogy. They've just intermixed with other tribes all over the earth. So, what do we learn? We learn that apostate religion is a big problem, okay? It doesn't matter what our enthusiasm or what our skills or what archaeology or what we can do. If we have false religion, if we are doing things outside of the Most High's instruction, it will lead to destruction. So thank you for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed this tour of Tel Dan. And I do hope you enjoy the tours of Jerusalem. Of course, this is not Jerusalem. This is far north, but there's some significant sites we'll be sharing with you. And so we do have a playlist on Jerusalem tours and tours in the land of Israel, which I really hope you enjoy. If you ever do come to Israel, I encourage you to watch a series of these videos and some others online of archaeologists that you can use, educate yourself on the history. There's other things here and springs and children playing. There's busloads of kids, but what we're focusing mostly on is on the archaeology, on the history, and the story, the reading between the lines of the story of history so that we don't repeat the same things. So thank you for watching. And again, please watch the videos in the description field.